Hey everyone, welcome back. With a federal election now officially on the horizon, housing affordability is really in the spotlight, and one big promise already making headlines is this: eliminate the GST on new homes. Political parties are saying it'll make homes more affordable, but will it really? Today we're going to dig into what the research says, including what Nobel Prize-winning economists have written on this subject, and why removing GST might not actually lower prices for home buyers. We'll also look at the long-term trade-offs and the real question we should be asking: is this good housing policy or just election optics? Let's break it down. So here's the promise you're going to hear over and over in the coming weeks. We'll eliminate the GST on new home construction to bring down prices and help Canadians get into the market. Sounds good. I mean, 5% off a $750,000 home, it's almost $40,000 saved, right? Well, not necessarily, because that assumes builders will pass those savings on to buyers. And in most markets across Canada, they won't have to. Nobel Prize-winning economist Paul Krugman summed it up like this: the person who writes the check to the government isn't necessarily the one who ends up paying the tax. And that's exactly what's happening here. In places like the GTA or Vancouver, where until very recently demand is sky high and supply is limited, builders can sell out their units no matter what. So when you remove the GST, prices don't automatically fall. The builder just keeps the extra margin. Who blames them? This isn't speculation. It's well established in economics. Another Nobel laureate, James Mirrlees, found that when supply is inelastic, removing a tax mostly benefits producers, not consumers. And guess what? Housing supply in Canada is very inelastic, at least in the short term. So why do politicians keep proposing it? It's easy, it polls well. It sounds like you're cutting the taxes to help the middle class, and to be fair, there is a long-term argument behind it. If builders keep more of the sale price, their profits go up, and that could, in theory, attract more development, more homes, more supply, eventually relatively lower prices. But here's the problem: that pipeline takes years to show results. And that's if you fix a dozen other bottlenecks first that include zoning restrictions, permit delays, construction on labor shortages, and land availability. So even if you boost developer profits today, the housing crisis doesn't magically go away tomorrow. Now, there is a wrinkle in some markets, like much of the Golden Horseshoe right now, and its oversupply of new condo units. That segment of the market is acting a little more elastic, meaning prices are under pressure, and builders might be more willing to offer incentives or pass on tax savings just to move units. So on a limited scale, it may happen quickly, but it's important to keep this in perspective. This is a short-term oversupply in a narrow segment, not a broad shift in housing dynamics. Detached homes, family-sized units, and affordable rentals are still in very limited supply, and that's where most buyers are struggling to get in. So even in a place like Toronto, the overall housing market is still behaving inelastically, and the main argument still holds. Now, who pays for the missing GST? Let's say we remove GST on new homes. Billions in tax revenue vanish from federal budgets. So here's the real question no one is going to want to talk about on the campaign trail: where does that money come from instead? That's federal revenue that helps fund major national programs and transfers to provinces for things like healthcare, social services, and infrastructure. So when that revenue disappears, Ottawa either cuts the spending, raises taxes elsewhere, or increases the deficit. Yes, some of the missing revenue might come back through higher profits and corporate tax from builders, but realistically, most of it doesn't. And that means the cost of that lost GST isn't just absorbed, it's actually transferred. And from whom? For Canadians at large, taxpayers, to a relatively small group of mostly already wealthy players in the housing market: builders, developers, landowners. But beyond the election, this debate isn't new. Even though this is now becoming an election talking point, the issue itself is bigger than one campaign cycle. This is part of a long-standing tension in housing policy. How do we balance affordability with competitive market forces and the need to fund essential public services? Removing taxes might help political parties win votes, but if we're serious about solving the housing crisis, we need more than just tax breaks. We need real supply-side reform. Faster approvals, smarter zoning, purpose-built rentals, co-op and nonprofit housing, and direct support more so for first-time buyers and not developers. Although we do need to also ensure the markets remain healthy for them so they can compete, there's healthy competition, and remain profitable. So here's the bottom line. Eliminating GST on new homes sounds like a quick fix, but in most markets, it won't lower prices. It'll just raise profits for developers. And don't get me wrong, I am not anti-profit, but let's stay focused. The promise of cutting the GST is about lowering costs, not raising private profits. Any long-term benefits in this regard are going to depend on fixing supply issues that go far beyond taxes. And meanwhile, in the short term, economics tells us this election promise will mostly result in just shifting public revenue into private hands with little accountability. So when this comes up in a debate or campaign ad over the next few weeks, ask yourself, is this about solving the housing crisis or just scoring political points? Let me know what you think in the comments. If this gave you a bit of a different perspective or a large one, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who's thinking about buying or voting. See you next time.